The first story I'm going to tell is a story full of magic and mystery and kidnapping, and it's all about three gods. Now, the gods Odin, Loki, and one you might not have heard of, Honir. Now, the gods get quite bored up in Asgard. I mean, being a god, there's not much to do, is there? And they like to go on adventures. So one day, Odin, Loki, and Honir decided they would travel from Asgard down the Rainbow Bridge to Midgard, or, as you know it, Earth. Now, Earth is beautiful, so they spent all day adventuring. They climbed up the top of snowy mountains. They went through luscious forests full of deers and owls and rabbits. They waded through rushing rivers with salmon leaping over their heads. They swam in the clear blue oceans, and they walked barefoot along sandy beaches. Now, all of this was quite tiring, so at the end of the day, they found a field to set up camp for the night, and they were rather hungry. So Honir popped off to find something to eat, and Loki and Odin made a big fire. Honir came back with an ox that he had found, and they chopped it up into bits and popped it onto the fire. Now, the gods were so hungry that their tummies rumbling sounded like thunder in the sky. And after what felt like an eternity, Loki reached in, grabbed a leg of ox, bit into it, hum, and he spat it out. It was raw. Ugh, yuck. In his eagerness to eat, he must have taken it off too early, so he threw it back on. After another hour, this time Honir reached in, took a leg, took a great big bite, spat it out. It was still raw, so they threw it back on the fire. Now, after another hour, Odin reached in this time and he picked a bit of meat, put it up to his face. Yep, you guessed it. It was still raw. Now, the gods were starving. They were grumpy, and their stomachs were rumbling so loud it sounded like an earthquake. Now, for the girls listening, you know how grumpy men get when they're hungry? Well, yeah, they were very grumpy. But Odin, the wisest of the gods, because he had given his eye for magical knowledge, said, there must be some kind of magic or foul play afoot. Let's be careful and have our wits about us, because something is not right. And Odin was correct. A booming voice from above cried out to them, that is my fire, and that is my ox, and even the fire demon Surt could not have this fire cook unless I allow it. Now, they looked up and they saw an eagle in the tree. Not just a normal eagle, not just a medium-sized eagle, but a huge eagle. Now, I don't know about you, boys and girls, but if I looked up in a tree and saw a giant talking eagle, I would be quite scared. The gods asked the eagle, what is it you want? We're so hungry, please. We'll give you anything if you just let the meat cook. And the eagle said, I will let your meat cook, but only if I can have the first bite. The gods were so hungry that they would agree to anything, and they said, yes, yes, please, just let it cook, please. I mean, there's enough ox to go around. So the eagle let the fire cook, and after a while it was ready. And the gods gestured, please, eagle, have your fill, and then we'll have the rest. And the eagle swooped down and he ate it all. Every last bite. Now, the gods were furious. Loki was the most angry. He picked up a stick and he hit the eagle, but the stick stuck to the eagle, and Loki's hand stuck to the stick. And as the eagle took off into the sky, Loki went with him, and Loki was terrified. The eagle flew so high up into the sky, into rain clouds, that Loki got soaked. And then the eagle flew so low that he dragged Loki through the forest, that branches and trees scraped his face. And then he bounced up and down so that Loki's bum bounced off the ground. He flew far up into the sky again, and Loki was screaming in fear. please, Mr. Eagle, please let me go. I'll do anything. And the eagle said, anything? Well, Loki shapeshifter, I will let you go, but only if in 7 days' time you return to this very spot and bring me a gift. I want you to bring me the beautiful goddess Idun and her magical apples. The magical apples that keep the gods young, the magical apples that grant eternal life. If you do not do this, I will come to Asgard and I will find you and I will capture you and take you far out to sea and drop you in the ocean where the Midgard serpent will devour you whole. Loki was desperate. He said, yes, yes, please, anything, I agree. I will bring her to you in 7 days. Just please let me go. So the eagle let him go. But he was still up high and he fell all the way down, splat, on the ground. He got up, shook himself off, and he went back to the field where Odin and Honir were grumpily waiting. Now, they just wrote this off as a terrible day and they decided to go home. And they said no more about this disastrous day. But the 7 days went in really quickly, and on the 7th day, Loki started to panic. He knew he had to do this, but he was so terrified. He went to find Idun in her orchard, and she was gathering her golden apples. Now, Idun was beautiful and kind and very trusting, and Loki realised, I'm going to have to trick her. I'm going to have to tell an amazing lie and convince her to come with me. And he thought, and he thought, and he thought, I have it. And he ran in and said, Idun, guess what? I was on Midgard the other day and I found another orchard with golden apples that look just like yours. Why don't you come with me and bring a basket of apples and we can compare? And Idun innocently believed him and she followed him. And they went down the rainbow bridge all the way down to Midgard and approached the field. Now, Idun started to look about. She couldn't see any trees, and she certainly couldn't see any golden apples. But just as she was about to say to Loki, I don't see any apples, down from the sky came the eagle, the giant eagle with huge talons and a massive beak. And he grabbed Idun, and he grabbed the apples, and he flew away. Now, Loki, she's like, got out of that one. Fantastic. I'm going to go back to Asgard and no one will ever know. But there's a twist to this story. This was no eagle. This was a giant who was a shapeshifter called Þjazi. And he lived in Jotunheim, the land of the giants. And that's where he took Idun. He took Idun back to his tower and he locked her in a room at the top of the tower with only a tiny little window. Now, everything was okay for a while. Nobody noticed. But without the magic apples of youth and eternal life, the gods started to age. At first, they didn't quite notice. It was the odd grey hair here and there. But then they started to feel a bit achy and sore. They started to have a sore back and sore knees, and they got a bit grumpy. For those boys and girls listening, if you need to know about symptoms of getting old, you can just ask your mum and dads. Now, after a while, their hair started to grow grey, and that's when they realised something has gone wrong. Wait a minute, has anyone seen Idun? No, I've not seen her for about a week. Now, the gods were furious, and they called a meeting. And when something goes wrong in Asgard, there is only one person to blame. Now, I know I can't hear you, but boys and girls, who's usually to blame? That's right, Loki. Now, they brought Loki to the meeting and they threw him on the ground and they said, Loki, what have you done? We know you've done something. Tell us or we will kill you. And he would not admit it. He would just lie, as he always did, until Thor came in with his mighty hammer and he said, tell us the truth, Loki. Tell us the truth or I will bash you on the head. As you probably know, Thor and Loki don't get on too well. So at this point, Loki was terrified. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what to do. A giant eagle was going to eat me. Oh, I'm so scared. Please forgive me. And Odin said, Loki, this is your fault. You will go and you will bring back Idun. And he said, okay, if you promise Thor won't kill me. So he had to get to Jotunheim. It was a long way, and the fastest way to get there would be to fly. Now, if you've heard of Freya, beautiful goddess, she has a magical cloak made of feathers. And if you put it on, you turn into a falcon and you can fly. So he borrowed the cloak. He turned into a falcon and off he set to Jotunheim. He finally found where Þjazi lived, and he planted himself on a branch outside the tower, and he watched and he waited for Þjazi to leave. And as soon as Þjazi left, Loki flew into the tiny window and turned back into Loki and said, Idun, I'm here to rescue you. Now, do you think Idun was happy to see him? No, she was furious. In fact, she threw all her apples at him. And then, when she was finished being angry, she said, right, how are you going to get me home? The window's too small. I won't fit outside the window. So Loki thought, I'll use magic. Quite convenient in these stories. I'll turn you into something really small, like an acorn. So he turned into an acorn, picked her up in his talons, and he flew out the window all the way back to Asgard. But the story does not end there. Unfortunately, Þjazi arrived home just in time to see the falcon leaving. But because Þjazi was a shapeshifter, he knew that that was not a falcon, that was Loki in disguise. He turned into an eagle and he set off into pursuit. Now, falcons can fly really fast, but not as fast as a magic eagle. Back home in Asgard, the gods were watching them from the walls, terrified. They just managed to see Loki, and they're saying, hurry, Loki, hurry! He's behind you! He's gaining ground! So the gods came up with a plan. Just outside the walls of Asgard, they started piling up trees and branches and dried plants and wood shavings, and they went and got torches and lit them afire. They waited and waited and waited, and they called to Loki, Loki, hurry, Loki, hurry. And as Loki sped over the walls of Asgard, they set fire to the pyre, and a huge flame flew up in the sky, and Þjazi burst into flames and crashed to the ground. Now, he wasn't dead, of course. And who had to come in and finish the job? Thor. Thor waded in his big angry self and poof, bashed Þjazi, and Þjazi was dead. So Idun was returned, the gods ate the apples and became young and beautiful again, and all was well in Asgard. As for what happened to Loki, can't say in front of children, but he certainly got his just desserts. And that is the story of the kidnapping of Idun.